So this comes from um, the fact that within biological sciences at Leicester, we didn't have a standardized assessment brief. And so each module convener or assessment setter was generating their own, and including whatever they felt was necessary or not within their assessment brief. And so, students understandably were not necessarily always getting quite the information that they needed in a consistent way. So this is why we went about introducing a standardised assessment brief. And just to mention the people involved, as well as Alison, Snape and Sarah, who are from the School of Biological Sciences, we also had input from Catherine Taylor, who's from our Education Services department. So she was able to give us sort of insights from that more pedagogic background. So we introduced this just in the academic year that's just ending, and as I've said, it was mainly to provide consistency for students and to make sure that everything that we felt needed to be in the assessment brief was actually there. So there were set headings that were included that staff needed to complete. So I'll show you in a moment the sort of front page of it, but it starts with a table with all the key information about what the module is, what the assessment is, what the deadline is, etc. But then the first section after that was what was the purpose of the assessment? And I think we've heard from a few people already that students don't always understand why we're getting them to do a particular assessment. Why do I need to, do presentations or produce a portfolio? What's that got to do with biology? So sometimes they don't quite see the relevance to their wider development and career readiness. So, and linking to that, there's also a section on the skills that are being developed. And so staff can select from a long list of different skills which ones are actually being developed in that particular assessment, and that cross references to the skills portfolios that we were talking about earlier. We have a section explaining how students can use AI or whether they can use it, so a red, amber, green system we use there. And then obviously the main part is the instructions for actually completing the assessment, and then quite a lot of information about what support's available, so whether that's within the module, any support sessions or who to contact for advice if they need it, and then a link to the marking criteria or rubric depending what the assessment is. And then the final part is references to wider support and information. So information about academic integrity, support that they can gain from our central university services, whether that's support about essay writing, general writing skills, how to research information, math skills, that kind of thing, which the university provides central support for, and how they can go about applying for mitigating circumstances if they're unable to complete the assessment. So, because this is the sort of thing that some students just miss out on, and particularly I think in first year, or if it's the first time they've encountered these issues, they don't always know where to look. So if it's embedded within the assessment brief, hopefully that makes it easily accessible to all students. So this is what that front page looks like. So it's the same for all assessments. And I have to say that almost all our modules did manage to introduce this in the academic year that we're just ending. And we also surveyed students on several of the modules. I think it was 6 modules, 2 or 3 in each of the year groups, so ranging from level 4 to level 6. And you used a Likert scale, so 4 points, so strongly disagree, agree, or strongly agree, so scoring from 1 to 4. And the questions or the statements that were used in the survey are shown here. And you can see that the scoring on the right, it was pretty positive for most elements. So the assessment brief itself was clear and easy to follow. That was a key one, and the students were pretty positive about that. It did vary from module to module. So this is the aggregate score for all of the different modules. And it's nice to see that they were clear on whether they were allowed to use AI, which is something that the university was really trying to reinforce this year. I guess the issues that the questions or statements that scored less well, and we probably need to work on a little more of what I understood what I needed to do to get a good mark, and that maybe reflects the level of extra support that students were given within the module, whether there was a preparation session that went through previous examples, and discussed the marking rubrics and what scores or marks those particular assessments would have received. So that's something we need to look at in a bit more detail. I think we also carried out a focus group with year 3 students, and I think some of the comments from that focus group feed back to the bottom 2 statements here, where students rated those statements the lowest of all. So understanding, some students in the focus group talked about not understanding what it means to demonstrate understanding. So if you have in your marking criteria, the students understand or show understanding of a topic, what does that actually mean? So that's something we need to work on. But also, I think related to building assessment literacy and confidence with specific types of assessment. And we've talked a bit about this a bit today, about different types of assessment and scaffolding students in gaining confidence and expertise in particular types of assessment and particular skills that perhaps we need to use more coherence across the programme in building and different assessment. Sorry, I'm not being very coherent because I've not thought about this for quite a while. But building, I guess the assessment literacy and confidence throughout the 3 years of their study. So we need to have a bit of work on repetition of particular assessments and deciding what are the key types of assessments, key skills that we want students to be gaining, or competencies as we're talking about today. So that's something that we really feel is an important thing that we're going to work on next, based upon what we've found out here. So, when students were talking about feedback from a previous assessment helping me with the current assessment, the fact that it scored low, relatively low, it might be the fact that we're not sort of scaffolding students well enough in building the expertise in particular styles of assessment, and that's something we're going to look at on a programmatic level going forwards. And I think that's probably all I can say on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue, and thanks so much for being able to improvise so brilliantly.
Yes, thank you.
Are there any questions in the chat, Andrew?
There's not mainly more comments than questions, I think, coming up in the chat room. It resonated very much with me, Sue, when you mentioned about students not understanding what the word understanding means. I've often been thinking back to what I mentioned of rubrics earlier today. I've often seen rubrics where it say things such as demonstrate a full understanding, demonstrate a clear understanding, demonstrate understanding. And what does that actually mean to a student? It's almost meaningless. And then it's part of, I think, some of these kind of hidden curriculum issues that we need to sort of be looking at, or rubrics that say demonstrate an excellent perspective on this. Well, even between different academics, their perception of what an excellent perspective would be is going to be different. So I think we need to try and look very carefully at some of these things and explain to students what they actually mean in a language that they can relate to. So they say so. Excellent doesn't mean it's. I mean, an example. One of our master's marking templates that we had until a couple of years ago. One of the criteria that work should be of a publishable standard. And I thought, well, we don't know, that was in the 90s. I thought, well, we don't really expect students to be producing work of a publishable standard. So very few people could attain it. Good comment there from Caroline about student literacy. Yes, literacy. Yes, there's a lot of work to be done on developing student assessment literacy. We've actually got some resources, a 5HTP resource that Adewale has designed me from the TA, so I could let you have a copy of that if it might be of interest to people. I think we'll try and collate a lot of resources from this if people send them in, and then send them all out. So that'll be really useful.